Could we call Representative Morgan, please? Oh, she's here. Ladies and gentlemen, on this bill, before we start, we have approximately 120 witnesses that have called in. And in order to hear from all of the witnesses, I'm going to ask you to, if we could hold our questions to the end, and we'll call back specifically. We also, due to the fact that we have a limited time in this room, in order to accommodate respectfully all of those 120 witnesses, we are going to be very firm in limiting their testimony to 1 minute. Representative Morgan will get as much time as she needs to explain and advocate for the bill. And I realize that some of the testimony we may hear could possibly be upsetting to individuals on, if there are two sides of this issue, to both sides of the issue or the bill, pro and con. What we are going to demonstrate is civility and respect for all of the witnesses, and we want to be fair to make sure that we give all of our witnesses a chance to speak, and listening to them and hearing from them is our top priority. And with that, Representative Morgan, welcome. Take as much time as you need to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to, before I begin my testimony, to say that I actually invited, I'm not a subject matter expert on this. I've done quite a bit of research, but I'm not an expert, and I did invite 6 experts from around the country to appear so that you could be better informed about this topic and understand its nature and its divisive and insidious quality. I just want to register that giving them 1 minute is not nearly enough. I had told them to prepare for 3 to 5 because I did realize that we have a limited time. And I'd like to figure out with you, Chairman, a way that they can share their knowledge with this body in a more complete way.
Written testimony is acceptable, and as soon as we get it, we will put it up on our website, and furthermore, we will make sure that all the members of the committee get that testimony. And I know for myself that going through written testimony is very more influential on legislation. So
I would hope so.
We respect
because
their expertise, and we look forward to reading whatever they submit. So please proceed. Thank you.
Yeah, I would hope so, because this is a topic that I think is really important to our state, our children, and our sense of community in Rhode Island. My bill seeks to ban a destructive and divisive ideology that is termed critical race theory from our schools and from any entities that do business with the state of Rhode Island and receive government money. Let me explain a little bit about it. First of all, I can tell you that it is here and it is prevalent in our state. From the emails and the social media that I have received over the last few days, I can tell you that it is in every one of our colleges and universities, and it is in every one of our school districts, K through 12. I was a teenager when Martin Luther King became a leader of the civil rights movement. I heard his "I Have a Dream" speech on television. That day, he set the goal for America. He said that he looked to a day when people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That was the goal. And I embraced it and have tried to live my life that way, and I think America embraced it. We not only held America accountable to our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the First Amendment, the 14th Amendment, but we strengthened it with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We fought segregation, and now it's coming back. Critical race theory is the opposite of Martin Luther King's goal for our country. The goal of CRT is to find racism in every part of American society. It seeks to impose a new segregation on us. We're no longer to be judged as individuals, but instead as members of a group. And those groups are determined by the color of our skin. And we are given the titles of oppressor and oppressed, perpetrator and victim. It just is so anti-American value that it alarms me and it frightens me for our children. One of the things that I think is most insidious about it is it looks at unequal outcomes. You know, I was a special education teacher, and you can't give people the same outcomes. There's so much in the course of our lives that make the outcomes of our lives come out differently. The proponents of CRT look at unequal outcomes and say that they happen because of racism. And it's insidious because it negates meritocracy. The idea that if you work hard and you put effort in and that you persevere, if you make good decisions, that you will succeed, that you'll get your little piece of the American dream. I think the fact that it negates meritocracy is depressing, because what it says is the only thing that matters is the color of your skin, that your character doesn't matter, that your effort doesn't matter, and that the only way for one person to rise is for them to tear down another. I have been challenged by, a member of the news media who said, look at Providence schools. What a mess they are. You can't say that racism doesn't exist in Providence schools. Compare them to Barrington. You can't say that Providence doesn't have racism. What Providence has is mismanagement, and a lot of it. What Providence has is a lot of bad educational leaders who have allowed the schools to not meet the challenges and not deliver good educations to their students. I actually looked up, and Providence spends $1,000 more than the average for the state on education. We give Providence all the resources that they need. Their per pupil costs are higher than the average. It is mismanagement there and not racism. But CRT would have you believe that everything is racism. It's just not true. I've also been asked, does this mean we can't teach history? Of course not. I was taught history. I know about the Civil War. I know about all of the bad things that America has done as it's been growing. America, more than any other country, we're hard on ourselves for the failings of our past, but we learn from them. One of the wonderful things about America is it always strives to do better. So yes, we can teach history, we can teach all of the facts. What we can't do is treat racism in our present-day society as a fact. We can't teach CRT as a fact. We can teach it as opinion. We can ask students to challenge themselves on an opinion, just like we teach children about communism or socialism or any other kind of ism out there. But it's not a fact. It's an opinion. When children are exposed to neo-racism and race shaming, it is a step backwards for our country. It brings new segregation. A school child in Warwick doesn't have any control over what happens nationally or even in Providence. Their skin color has even less to do with what's happening in Providence. Leave those children alone. Stop subjecting them to neo-racism and race shaming. It's destructive, and it makes other problems worse. It threatens the cohesiveness of our American culture. We would never accept race shaming if it was directed towards black school children. We should not accept it when it's directed at white school children. And that is what is happening in our schools. I have the emails. The answer to racism is not more racism. The answer is not a new kind of racism, a new kind of segregation. Race shaming is not the answer. The answer is the goal that was set down by Martin Luther King 70 years ago. And that is that we don't never judge people by the color of their skin, but instead know them as individuals and accept them by the content of their character. That's it, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Morgan. And if you could just stay with us so we can hear everything, and we're going to hold questions till we hear from the witnesses. We have 120 opposed and 3 in support. So, and Adriana, Flores, Pagan? And then Allison, Greco after that? Welcome, you have 1 minute, Adriana. Please proceed.
Okay. So, my name is Adriana, and I'm a Highlander student, and I just want to speak about the 67067. Oh my God. So, what has been going on is not right, because I think students and everybody should be educated about sexism and racism, and it's not right that what's going on is not I guess they want to take out our education, and I think a lot of people need to be educated because of what's going on in this world and what happened back then, and it's just
20 seconds, please.
I think that
No?
students may introduce into society factors. In many occasions, we should not throw to waste the progress we made already as people, students, and as a state.
Good finish. Excellent. Any questions for the, no, we're going to wait till the end and we'll call back. Allison, Greco, next witness. And then we'll go to Dr. You have 1 minute, Allison. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Allison Greco. I'm a teacher at Barrington High School, and I live in Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm speaking in opposition to this bill. I hope this bill is a political grandstanding gesture by Representative Morgan for some political race she intends to run in the future, and not a substantive position to impact education in our
Could you
state.
please address your comments to the legislation and not to the personality? Please proceed.
I did not.
Please
I
proceed.
did not. Okay. Because if this is a substantive position to impact education in our state, she and her co-authors
20
are making a
seconds.
fuss.
Please conclude.
I have not been able to speak. For the record, I have not been able to speak.
Okay, I'm yielding 30 seconds. Please conclude. You have 30 seconds to conclude.
The introduction of this bill is a political grandstanding gesture. Our public education system deserves better. This bill has come at the expense of our children, maligning our educators, and wasting our taxpayers' time and money and energy when our legislators should be legislating bills that would actually help our state. Please don't allow this bill to move forward. Please don't make our education system a pawn in some political game. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Kaylin Brasienko. And then after that, Amanda Iacampo. Welcome, Doctor. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you. I am speaking today in strong support of this bill, and you're going to hear a lot of testimonies calling it a racist and sexist bill. Those people are lying. They're either lying through malicious intent, or they are lying because they do not fully understand this ideology. So let me be brief and give you a few examples of how this ideology manifests in the real world. The Coca-Cola Company recently...
Could you please refrain from derogatory statements about other witnesses?
Yes. I only have 1 minute, sir, and I would really like to give some examples.
Proceed.
The Coca-Cola Company recently mandated that their employees do an online training that told them to try to be less white. This training said that to be less white is to be less oppressive, less arrogant, less certain, less defensive, less ignorant, more humble, etc. 8th grade students at a school in Fairfax County, Virginia, were taught that if they believed in the Pledge of Allegiance, then they should become social justice activists to dismantle white privilege. They also played a game of oppression bingo, where they were mandated to identify their own privilege to their classmates. These students are 14 years old. In New York City, parents of white students were told that their goal should be to become white traitors, and anything less than being a white traitor is a white supremacist. At the University of New Hampshire, white staff members were told that their role was to shut up and to educate themselves if they wanted to keep their job. This is a fundamentally racist ideology, and you cannot fight racism by introducing more racism.
And we do accept any written testimony you have, and it will be distributed to the
I am
committee
sure
members.
it will not be read at all, but thank you.
Thank you. And the next witness is Amanda Iacampo. You have 1 minute, Amanda. Please proceed.
Okay, my name is Amanda Ike. I'm a grade LA teacher at Highlander Charter School in Providence. The bill that you proposed, 6070, is enactable across the state. The bill seeks to censor historical truth. While the times may have changed, generational trauma, discussions of these so-called divisive topics do not seek students, but rather to engage dialogue with students of color. It is sometimes ugly and live. Not, it's what we're trying to establish.
20 seconds, please.
Human beings. The topic of this bill was yesterday afternoon by students point out. Forward to having these conversations. This bill goes against every leaders. This bill should pass.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. The next witness will be Angelica Bazek from Barrington High School. Angelica, welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Angelica Basic, and I live in Barrington, Rhode Island. I am a high school junior, and I am testifying against House Bill 6070. The reason I am able to speak here is because I have had teachers who have instituted knowledge in me through discussions that have both empowered and enlightened me. They have taught me history. Through removing discussions on gender and race, history is what you are omitting with this bill. Discussions and the lessons that allow us and allow students to tell their story and feel heard are anything but divisive. In light of the recent events over the past few weeks with the attack on Asian Americans, the summer filled with Black Lives Matter protests, the Me Too movement of 2017, and the past 245 years of injustice in America, we should take the time to reflect. Sorry, what was that?
Thank you very much, Angelica. Next, we have Anya Waslowski, Paul Cuffey School. Anya, welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed. Anya, welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hello, I'm a teacher in the Rhode Island school, and I teach civics and history, and I think it's very important that all voices, all ideas are taught in the classroom and are discussed in the classroom. I think this is a ridiculous idea to limit whose voice. I don't think it's a matter of guilt or feeling bad. I think it's a matter of exploring the past and understanding what's happened in the past to help us have responses to what's going on today. So I just really think it's important that teachers and education and classrooms are discussing all this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. April Brown is next. Okay, Becca Davis? Okay, Bianca Natasorian. Then on deck will be Brandon Flores. Bianca? Brandon Flores.
Chairman, while we're waiting, I'd just like to address the idea that this is political. This has nothing to do with
okay, that's all right, yeah.
It just has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat.
I understand, but
Great.
we're going, we have someone on right now, Representative.
Good.
Thank you. Brandon, please proceed. Please proceed, you have 1 minute. Brandon. Hello? Please proceed, you have 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Brendan Solis. I'm not only coming to you today as a member of the Board of Education and Ride Student Advisory Council Chair, but as a high school senior and a brother to 3 siblings approaching middle school.
Okay.
Oh wait. Am I good to go?
Yeah. Yes?
Okay. In my experience, rarely did I ever see myself in the materials I was taught. I only saw African Americans in bondage or body bags, which is only slightly better than never having 40 seconds having my Hispanic culture acknowledged. However, the support of my communities and the teachers involved built me into the man speaking to you today. I say this to say that not only is the House Bill 6070 sloppily written, not only is it
excellent. Thank you, Brandon. Good finish. Next, we have Casey Blackburn. Christy De Silva will be up next, Highlander Charter School. Christy. Any answer? This reminds me of dialing for dollars. They used to count the rings, then hang up. That's going way back. Okay. Courtney Brennan Rand is a school teacher. I think that's first ring, second ring, third ring. I think that seeing that Courtney, welcome. You have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and I'm an educator in Providence, Rhode Island, and I believe that the bill is an infringement on our students' education, and that it's also censorship. And it's important for students to know about the good and bad of history. And unfortunately for Rhode Island, slavery is a big part of our history, and it's only fair for students to learn, and we should not hide the truth from them, and that we should encourage them to research, find education, and discover the truth, and to learn that we can learn from our mistakes from the past to make a better future. That's all I have to say. Please consider the children and their education, and please don't censor their education in school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Courtney Brennan Rand. Dana Kevin Baptista Jr. Welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hello.
Hi, Dana. Yeah, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute. You're on.
For what?
To testify. Unless you're waiting for a pizza or something, which you will not get, because this is the Rhode Island House of Representatives Committee on Education. Dana. Do you want to testify on a bill, 6070?
I'm so confused on what's going on.
Okay, very good. Please disregard this phone call. Thank you. Daniel Amar, next. Welcome, Mr. Amar. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Okay.
You can talk now.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Daniel Amar.
Yes, please proceed.
Please, I do something on my school project. That's why I said do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's part of your school project. You can tell them that you spoke with Chairman McNamara.
Yeah.
And he said you were very polite.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
You're welcome. Danielle Renzi. Darcy Denigan. 1 minute. Oops. Darcy, you have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hi, I'm calling to object to this bill. I'm against this bill as a white parent in Providence with 2 kids who have had really good conversations in their classrooms about race and gender and class and sexuality. And I think that we parents need the schools to help us in these difficult conversations if we're going to have an equitable society. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Very good testimony. Thank you, Darcy. Next, David Velez. Welcome, David. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairman and committee members. My name is Dave Valise. I'm the director for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. We are a coalition of faith leaders and advocates that fight poverty. And one of the things we do in fighting poverty is fight the institutional systems of oppression like racism and sexism that exist in our society. So as faith leaders, as parents, as education advocates, we want to oppose this bill because we feel like it's dangerous to restrict the knowledge to students about these systems of oppression that could tragically lead to perpetuating these systems. So I know that there's concerns about, what our kids... There's concerns about what our kids learn, but I think it'd be worse for our kids not to learn about these things. So I hope that you oppose this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Duan Nang? Duan? Please proceed. You have 1 minute, Dwayne. Ni hao, please proceed. You can start talking now. Please proceed. Thank you, Sheshe. I think that's, how about Duan Kim? Not a working member, Chairman. How about Elijah Short? I'm getting the impression that a teacher said, this is your assignment. Yeah. Elijah? Oh. Elijah, please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Elijah Short. I'm a junior at Barrington High School. I'm here to testify against Bill 6070. In regards to this bill, I think it's important to acknowledge students who will be affected strongly. In some classes, we learn about topics like systemic racism and privilege, not because they are divisive, but because they are relevant and supported by fact. Representative Morgan addressed race shaming against white people, but I don't feel the curriculum that will be most harmed by this legislation can be considered white race shaming. I've never personally felt guilted into a certain opinion or emotion in regards to race or sex in the classroom. The discussions of race and sex have helped me grow, have empathy, and understand. The teachings that will most be harmed by this bill are among those who have been the most important and interesting.
20 seconds, please.
I believe that this bill limits what can be taught and therefore limits our education. From my experience, education on race and gender in the Barrington school system are not as Representative Morgan may believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah. Next, we have Elizabeth Boxdale. Okay, how about Emily Paguro?
Good news, we're going fast.
We're trying to be efficient. Any luck with Emily? How about Eric Fulford? And then Eric Wicks. It is, it's like dialing for dollars. Here we go, 7th from the bottom. It's 3 rings. Welcome, Eric. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
As a teacher of high school U.S. history, I consider this bill an insult. You would require your state's teachers to willfully ignore the truth of our country's past. The language of this bill pointedly does not mention which races or sexes it seeks to protect from discomfort, guilt, distress, or anguish, but the subtext is clear. The bill is seeking to protect white students from having to confront the sins of America's past. How can we possibly move forward as a society if we continue to willfully ignore America's incredibly entrenched history of racism and sexism? How can you possibly pretend that Rhode Island has no history of racism when some of the most prolific slave traders in America were Rhode Islanders? Students should be exposed to stories of oppression as well as stories of innovation, resistance, and heroism. There should not be any moment of historical import that we are not allowed to teach. And since this bill brings up the concept of anguish, how often have our students of color been forced to contend with content that would cause them anguish? How often have state-approved curricula either relegated them to the supporting role or erased them from the narrative of our histories altogether? I'm not saying my class is perfect, but we have to continue to push ourselves to examine and re-examine our history. I wish to voice my firm opposition.
Thank you, Eric. Eric Wicks, Highland Charter School. Welcome, Eric. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
I just wanted to say I oppose this completely. It's a real disservice to the kids, the students that we have to teach every day, to leave a critical part of education out of their lives. Learning how to grow with others and be a community and be equal in every way and see it that way. It's a disservice to have this bill go through or even talk about this kind of a bill. And I can see the rest of my time.
Thank you. Excellent. Erica Sevenson. Francis Abrams. Barrington High School. Yeah, Barrington, yeah, the kids, yeah, yep. Francis? No. Welcome, Francis. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Prohibiting the teaching of divisive concepts would negatively impact classrooms throughout Rhode Island. The discussion of difficult issues is essential to creating a more cohesive society. Hostile disagreements are only hostile because the opponents have no understanding of the other's position. Without discussion, these positions will never be understood and consensus will never be achieved. Classrooms are a place to learn and share knowledge. Students will not receive a true education if divisive concepts are not taught and discussed. The concepts listed in this bill are the horrible products of our society. Every Rhode Island student will be forced to engage with some form of a racist and sexist society at some point in their lives. Why wouldn't our representatives want Rhode Island students to be fully educated on this topic so they know how to respond to inequalities and stereotypes? Students should be taught how to right the wrongs of systematic oppression. To prohibit the discussion of divisive concepts in Rhode Island schools would be to fail Rhode Island students by limiting the depth of their education.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you. George Evans Molly. Welcome, George. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Excellent. I can't see who I'm speaking to at the moment. Can I ask who I'm speaking to?
It's Chairman McNamara and the House Committee on Education. Please proceed.
Excellent. Thank you. Today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, and I want to take a moment and read the names of the folks who were killed this year to ensure their memory is not in vain. Justin Parker, Nalusa Luciano Ruiz, Yampi Mendez, Archio, Monica Diamond, Leila Pelez Sanchez, Lexi. Now, I just want to remind folks, H6070, correct me if I'm wrong, this bill is to protect white fragility. Is that correct?
That's your interpretation. Just please proceed.
20 seconds remaining.
I was not told that I had a time limit, so I will continue.
No, you were. Excuse
No,
me.
that's not true. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. I was told when I had unlimited time to testimony this evening, and I will continue to do so.
Oh, you will.
I will. Scott Lee DeVore, Johanna Metzier, Hele O'Regan, Serena Angelique Valquez Ramos.
Thank you for your testimony.
I will continue. Reclaiming my time. Dominique,
You can't reclaim
Rainier, Fells, Tony, McDale, Penelope Diaz.
Thank you for your testimony, and just for the witnesses, everyone has 1 minute, and if you have further testimony, please submit it, email it to us, and it will be considered by the committee. So this isn't a Hollywood set. We're being respectful to our fellow citizens that have signed up, and this is the only way that we can do it, by limiting the time to 1 minute for the 120 witnesses. Gina Bay? And Ian R.O. Welcome, Gina. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Gina Bay. I currently sit as chair of the Barrington School Committee, but I'm also an Asian American woman with 3 Asian American children in the school system, which is why I'm here to testify in opposition to Bill H-6070. This bill would undo the gains we have made in the educational system to provide for a robust learning environment that makes students feel valued and take ownership of their learning. Learning about topics like racism and sexism engages students in investigations of meaningful, open-ended problems in an ideal way to get students to analyze, formulate questions, and generate solutions to challenging, authentic problems. But most importantly, it would take away the creation of safe spaces within classrooms for students like my children. They would not have their everyday lived experiences be validated and their racial identity strengthened, leading to less engagement in their learning and lower learning outcomes for all. Our sense of safety and belonging would be crushed, like a door slammed in our faces. I also want to address the point that there was an implication that racism does not exist in Barrington. I assure you that it does.
We appreciate your testimony, and feel free to submit any written testimony. Thank you. Ian Rowe? Welcome, Ian. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
This is Ian Rowe.
Yes, please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Ian Rowe. For the last decade, I've ran a network of public charter schools in the heart of the South Bronx and the Lower East Side of Manhattan with primarily low-income and minority students. In preparing for my testimony, I looked at the 8th grade reading proficiency scores in Rhode Island since 1998. As is the case with most other states, in each year since 1998 in Rhode Island, less than half of Rhode Island's white students in the 8th grade scored proficient in reading. The sad irony is that closing the black or Hispanic to white achievement gap without improving outcomes for all students would mean black and Hispanic students would move from sub-mediocrity to full mediocrity in terms of reading. It's important we as a country grapple with this because topics like critical race theory are going to do nothing to improve the reading outcomes for the nearly 3,500 white students, 22,000 Hispanic students, or 800 black students that were not reading and proficient.
Ian,
thank you.
We've just, we're giving and we thank you for your written testimony and the members of the committee reading it, but due to time limits, unfortunately, we have approximately 60 more witnesses, and we're just giving everyone 1 minute. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
The next witness is Jelia Joseph. Welcome, Jelia. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Okay. Hi, I thank you for this opportunity to speak. I will be testifying against House Bill number 6070, which prohibits teaching and training divisive concepts on race and sex. To ignore these inequities because people may feel distressed by the discussion or lesson is reprehensible and should not even be up for debate. If passed, this bill limits what is taught about racism and sexism more than it's already limited, and this is something that our students of color and students who don't identify as simply male or female can't afford to lose just because it may make people feel uncomfortable. Throughout the 18th century, Rhode Island merchants controlled between 60 and 90% of the American trade in African slaves. In other words, white men in Rhode Island controlled more than half of the American trade of African slaves. Not to mention the name of our state was literally called the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations up until November of last year. Is this information not supposed to be taught or discussed because it'll make white students feel uncomfortable? These things exist and they must be taught and discussed in order to build real solutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have James Lindsay of New Discourse. Welcome. Mr. Lindsay, please proceed. You have 1 minute. Oh. Welcome, Mr. Lindsay. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm hoping to persuade some of you to support this bill. Since I only have 1 minute, I'll be very brief. The ideology from which this bill tries to prohibit, in addition to outright white supremacy and patriarchy, begins from, this is a quote from one of their books on page 3, unlike traditional approaches to civil rights, which favor step-by-step progress and incremental progress, critical race theory calls into question the very foundations of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, enlightenment rationalism, and neutral principles of constitutional law. And then on page 23 later, it says that critical race theorists are skeptical of another, highly suspicious actually, of another liberal mainstay, namely rights. So you are trying to prohibit with this bill a ideology being taught by mandatory statute in various places in your by taxpayer money, something that is skeptical of rights, something that questions the constitutional order, something that's un-American, and something divisive.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next, James Stringer. Welcome, Mr. Stringer. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm a teacher at Highlander Charter School. I teach high school education. I brought this topic up. I brought the bill up with the students. I allowed them to read it. And the biggest push I got from all my students is that high school is the place where these conversations should be happening, where they can be happened in an orderly, in a controlled way, where you can facilitate it to ensure that all voices are heard and all opinions are heard. I fully agree that no high school should be pressing or pushing any specific opinion. However, the wording in that bill means that no student has the opportunity to voice or speak or listen or hear to the opinions of others, which to become a true citizen in the United States, to be somebody who truly is participating in our democracy, you need to be able to listen to, understand the viewpoints of others. And this bill would limit our ability to do that in high schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stringer. I appreciate it. Next, Jason Mazzini, yes?
No service on this phone.
Okay, Jaden Sutherland?
Voicemail directly, and we're calling
Jennifer is on deck. For Javine. Welcome, Jennifer. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jennifer Bergevine. I'm a Rhode Island public school teacher. I've been in the district of Barrington for over 20 years. I teach English, and a major part of our curriculum involves conversations around race and gender as presented in literature. I shared this bill, H6070, with my students, and they shared their thoughts with me, and I'd like to share them with you briefly today. We are in opposition to this bill. One of my 11th graders said that classroom conversations about uncomfortable topics are exactly what is necessary to grow a generation of Americans that can better the world and put ignorance to a stop. Comfort in a time of such animosity is a privilege that the world cannot afford.
20 seconds.
A ninth grader echoed this by simply saying, "Things won't improve if we are prohibited from hearing about it." I will tell you that the definition of divisive is actually defined as creating disunity or dissension. One of my juniors, after having a class discussion of white privilege, decided that I think teaching this concept is the polar opposite of divisive. Instead, it increases understanding and knowledge on these
Thank you,
issues
Jennifer.
and ultimately encourages togetherness.
We appreciate
I
your
implore
testimony.
you to...
Next, we have Jesse Burke, then Jessica Vega. Jesse Burke. Jesse Vega. Jessica, excuse me. John Green. Kids giving fake numbers again. Any luck with John? Welcome, Mr. Green. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you. Educating our children is a privilege and a huge responsibility because it's about much more than simply reading, writing, and arithmetic. American history has more than its fair share of truly iconic and inspiring moments. Chapters of integrity, principle, courage, and commitment, for which we can all feel justifiably proud as well as grateful. But if we are being completely honest, we must accept the undeniable fact that our history also has its share of dark chapters too. Hello? Hello?
Yes, you have 20 seconds.
Okay. I certainly realize that some topics are difficult to confront, but to avoid them by cherry-picking our way through the narrative because they make us feel uncomfortable is not the best way forward and runs against what becoming educated is all about. Without a true and full picture of events, we remain in a kind of limbo where we continue to deny our own culpability, robbing ourselves of the opportunity at our great peril for redemption by finally learning from our mistakes.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
All right.
Appreciate your testimony. Joshua Bland. Kanasha Carpenter. Kashmir McCona. Cashmere, excuse me. Cashmere. The finest cashmere sweater. Nope. Kashmir. Want to move on to Kathleen Martin? Kashmir, you have 1 minute. Welcome. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Kashmir McKenna, and I am a high school teacher in Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm speaking in opposition to Age 60-70. I'm a black male teacher who teaches a wonderful group of students of various ethnic and racial backgrounds and sexual identities. And in my first month of teaching, I witnessed the murders of black men by police officers that went viral. And because we had the opportunity to talk about it as a class, even in my first month of teaching, I could see a unifying that happened between myself and my students. It was not a divisive concept. What would have been divisive would have been to ignore the uncomfortable realities that are around us.
Seconds, please.
and I committed more to this cause and put together some testimony from my students that was shared in written testimony as well. I encourage lawmakers to think about the implications of what is divisive and what is ignoring the identities that students bring to the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashmir. I think your students are very lucky. Kathleen Martin. Kelsey, please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Hi. I just wanted to say that I am not in support of the bill. I oppose the bill. I think our students are very smart, and especially here in Providence, and they will know that America is racist and imperialist, and they're going to learn that anyway, so why not learn it from our schools correctly and not be a bunch of cowards about our actual history. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Kyra Duhame. Kyra, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Kyra Duhame, and I am a resident of North Providence. I am submitting my verbal testimony in opposition of this bill, which I find particularly shameful. These representatives have brought a bill to pass that essentially is attempting to outlaw the truth and the truth being taught in our schools. And in order to have students going out into the world without the information about what the history of Rhode Island actually is, sets them up for essentially failure and to get a rude awakening later in life. Additionally,
please.
I'm sorry, and the wording of the billing also is taken almost verbatim from former President Trump's executive order. These representatives didn't even, take care to rephrase things that they plagiarized. And additionally, you cannot outlaw feelings. I yield my time.
Thank you. We appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
testimony. Next, Latoya Bryce. Latoya, welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
I'm sorry?
Please proceed.
Okay, and what am I proceeding with?
You are proceeding with testimony on House Bill 6070.
Okay, I did not sign up to testify, or I did not oppose the bill to testify.
Very good.
I wanted to oppose. I did
Have a
want to
nice
oppose
day
them.
then, Latoya. You're opposed to it?
Yes, I am opposed to it.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Libby Merrill. No? Libby? Welcome, Libby. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Libby Merrill. I'm a resident of East Providence, Rhode Island. I'm a lifelong Rhode Islander, and I'm testifying today on behalf of myself. I want to testify in strong opposition to Bill 6070 that would prohibit the teaching of anti-racist education, including that white supremacy is a thing that exists. White supremacy is the basis of the foundation of the United States of America. We were founded on a lie of racial differences and racial hierarchy. And if we cannot face that history and teach it, then there is no way we can move beyond it. It is doing a grave disservice to the students and children of Rhode Island, as well as the teachers and adults, to not be able to name that and teach it. And the only way we will ever achieve equality and justice for all in the state of Rhode Island is to acknowledge our history, to teach it accurately, and to work together as a multiracial coalition to do better. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Libby. Next, Lillian Rose Redmond.
Chairman, no answer. We're going.
Lindsay. Lindsay, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lindsay Paiva, and I'm a Providence Public School teacher and a Rhode Island resident. Please consider this testimony against H6070. This bill is absolutely contrary to the democratic purpose of schooling. Schools are microcosms of society, and as such should be spaces where students can ask questions, process complex topics, and work together to understand their world. Pretending that racism and sexism do not exist in order to reduce the shame of students from the dominant group is a white supremacist and sexist approach. Just this week, the third grade teachers at our school decided to conduct a teach-in to support students to understand the ways in which the COVID pandemic is increasing racism against people who are of Chinese or Asian descent.
20 seconds, please.
Building empathy is one of the most important parts of my job. I believe that all educators have a responsibility to support students' ability to empathize. If we cannot do this work, our democracy and society as we know it will be in peril. We cannot keep protecting white supremacist interests. We need to move toward justice. Please do not pass 6070. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lindsay. Marilyn Rodriguez. Marvelina. Marvelina Bailey. Welcome, Marvelina. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Hi. So first I'd like to say that it is crucial that diversity is taught in our children's schools because we are in America and it's a diverse place to be in. And there need to be, we need inclusion. And without inclusion, it's almost going to be like they're being discriminated against, especially in the education system. And that's it.
Thank you, Marvelina. We appreciate your testimony. Melissa Boyd. Thank you. Michael Gerard Dodge. Highlander Charter School. Very well represented in this. Any luck with Michael? Okay. Michelle Marks Osborne. Welcome, Michelle. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. I am Michelle Marks Osborne. I am a subject matter expert on what this bill, H6070, is promulgating, and I stand strongly in opposition to this. I'm very concerned that what is being termed divisive is really against driving toward inclusiveness and equity for those who are non-white, who are women, who are non-heteronormative. And those groups have been subjected to just about every discriminatory practice under just about every one of these 10 points that have been noted. I am so disappointed that critical race theory has been
20 seconds, please.
That neo-racism has been misrepresented because it's founded in the ability to adapt to Eurocentricity. And by the way, Martin Luther King first said in his I Have a Dream speech that black people were not free then, and they are not free. We are not free now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Michelle. Nico Merritt, next witness. Nico, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Nico Merritt. I'm a public historian,
and I teach history classes. I'm in strong opposition to the bill 6070. I find it ironic that the bill mentions that divisive concepts shall mean and include one race or sex is inherently superior. That's how American history is currently taught. It uplifts one race or sex. We are taught history from a white patriarchal standpoint. We have the opportunity now to reteach the concepts that we haven't been taught before. If this bill passes, we're shutting down conversation in a place where it can be held and supported by educators and amongst peers in a school setting.
20 seconds remaining.
That this is even being considered, and I am disappointed that they're trying to deny issues like racism and sexism. They are here, and we need to discuss them and resolve them to make this better for our students and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. Next, we have Nina Wolf-Lendo. Nina? Welcome, Nina. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Wolf-Landau. I'm a Providence resident here tonight to testify against bill number 6070. I'm sure you've heard lots of really powerful testimony, so I'll keep mine brief. Our education informs our next generation. My education has deeply shaped the work I do every day and the work that I hope to do in the future. And it's deeply important that all Rhode Island residents learn about the history of Rhode Island and the history of this country in order to build a better future for all people. And the reality is that the history of Rhode Island does include a long and very deep involvement with the transatlantic slave trade, and we need to confront that, and banning the education of the deep histories of racism and other systems of oppression in this country and in this state is not the way forward. We need deep education and understanding to build a better future for this state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, Nina. The next witness is Orlando Cruz. Paige is always a pleasure. She's waiting for, I'm sure. Welcome, Paige. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Excellent. Rhode Island Kids Count would like to voice its opposition for 6070. Anti-racist teachings encourage students to learn about, analyze, and value experiences and stories of different racial groups, and to transform any feelings there may be of guilt into active commitment to dismantle racism. Policies and practices that are not racially aware and equity-centered exacerbate inequities and can uphold the racism that has plagued our education system. We urge the committee to continue its good work to improve policies and practices that are addressing disparities based on race, ethnicity, gender, income, immigration status, language status, and disability, and not to start to legislate feelings, especially those that impede the progress towards race equity.
20 seconds, please.
If I may quickly, Chairman, we also signed up to verbally provide testimony for 5838 concurrent enrollment and was not called, but our written testimony includes amendments that we hope that the committee takes a look at. And we also submitted testimony in support of 5837.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next witness is Peter Winston. Okay. Fanani Kim. Riley Curran. Rodney Perry. Lisa, how about the other sheets? Rodney Perry? No? How about Ruben? Ruben? Sage? What do I, do you have to print something out, the list that I signed the other sheets? Yeah, I have. Oh, all right.
Voicemail again, Chairman.
Sarah Jagler? No? How about Savi San? What time is this room? 6? Yeah, let's, 2 rings, and then we move on, because this room, another committee's coming in at 6 o'clock. I want to get through. Where are we now? Sophia?
So far, I'm on Sotiri and that one on the voicemail, Chairman, directly.
Stephanie Bannon? Stephanie? No? Okay. We've received another 375 pages of written testimony that we have not been able to print or process yet. Okay, how about Susili? Okay, next one. Susan Lepore. Susanna Yim. Tammy Miller. Asia Carpenter. These are all opposed. Venus Tian. Welcome, Venus. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Representatives Nick Namara and members of the Committee on Education. My name is Venus Tian. I live in Barrington, and I'm a senior at Barrington High School. I oppose Bill 6070. According to Bill 6070, educating students about issues related to race and gender sows division in our community. However, the truth is that educating students about these issues teaches students to empathize with one another and unifies our community. As a first-generation Chinese American and as a woman, I've experienced this firsthand. When we address issues of racism and sexism in class, I feel like a welcome member of my community. I feel connected to my community rather than separate from it. I feel seen rather than overlooked. This sense of unity motivates me to contribute to my community and be the best student I can be because I know that my contributions will be welcome and appreciated. The racist and sexist structures of our world divide us and convince us that we are more different than we are alike. Education plays a key role in breaking these barriers down and building bridges between us. If you decide to leave students in the dark about issues related to race and gender, you are not only keeping the truth of our country's history and politics away from us, denying us a rigorous, comprehensive education. You're standing passively by as the oppressive systems of our world dehumanize entire groups of people and render us unable to connect with each other.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wellington Lopez. Wellington, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
I am a student from Highland Charter School. I come behind other students that I go with. We do not. We do not agree with the bill. One, because we actually do one about Black Lives Matter. 2, we want to learn about the real America. And 3, we do not agree how the teachers can't teach about things that society is going on right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Wellington. Next, we have Wenyahan Wu. Wenyahan Wu, welcome. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak in firm support of HB 6070. My name is Dr. Wenyan Wu, Executive Director of California School Equal Rights Foundation. I'm here to testify in strong support of 6070 because divisive critical race training that imposes controversial political views should have no place in K-12 education at the expense of our children's educational and emotional development. And your taxpayers' money programs, cultural awareness, etc. But the ideological underpinnings of all such programs are neatly in line with critical race theory. I urge all the members of the Education Committee to vote yes on 6070 and consider my much more comprehensive written testimony. Thank you for considering my testimony.
Thank you, Wenyan. Thank you. Yale Goldstein. Welcome, Yale. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Yael Goldstein. I'm a junior at Barrington High School, and I'm testifying in opposition to this bill. On its face, Bill 6070 is a direct statement in opposition to healing the disparities that exist on the basis of gender and race. And racism and sexism exist. Some of us may not have to deal with it, but others must grapple with the ramifications of white and male privilege on a daily basis. Education exists to educate us on the real world, and the real world is, as it stands, unequal. Should I lack the opportunity to learn about and discuss these issues objectively in an academic setting, I shudder to think of how blind I would be to the inequality in the world around me. And in my experience as a high school student learning about race, gender, and all that follows, discussing these topics has never divided my classroom, but only brought us closer together in our endeavor to learn. My generation is supposed to facilitate change, but how can we find a solution to a problem we cannot see or are unaware of? To address racism and sexism in our society, we must encourage discourse and debate in our schools. Now, this bill argues on the basis of limiting discomfort. I say let us be uncomfortable. Maybe our discomfort will finally drive us to dismantle the hundreds of years of injustice with roots in gender and race. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next, Yangel Toribio. Yangel, please proceed. You have 1 minute.
All right, so I believe that this bill should not be passed. I believe it is blatantly racist and really unjustifiable if it was passed. Not only would it make us seem really dumb and stupid, but it would cost us the education of our future generations. We need to build on the past and to know that it was wrong. We need to learn from it and build from it, not take away the education that we deserve to know. If people are uncomfortable by it, that's good, because we learn more if we're uncomfortable.
20 seconds, please.
Yango?
Yeah?
Very good. I like the way you closed. Thank you for
Yeah.
your testimony.
You're welcome.
Yom Nang?
Yan Hao Toribia.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've waited, and I know that everyone has some comments. I'm just very pleased with the civility of most of our witnesses, and they were very articulate. But at this point, if anyone would like to make a statement, and I'll just go through the list. If Representative Amore, I'm going through alphabetical order. Representative Amore? Okay. So, Representative Alzate? And just a quick, if you have something quick to say, we don't want to...
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, please proceed.
Yeah, so as a
no.
chair of the Black and Latino caucus, this is harmful legislation, and it is crucial that we do not pass this legislation. And I laugh because I'm trying not to cry as to how terrible this legislation is. And as a representative from one of the most beautiful and diverse cities, I will just vote no on this legislation because it is terrible, it is harmful, and we need to have constructive, difficult, uncomfortable conversations about all of the topics that are really hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bia.
Yeah, so I think all of the witnesses have said it all, and I don't want to probably beat the dead horse. But however, as a black male, living within the U.S. and just listen to all the testimonies and listen to just read the bill. I read this bill over 4 or 5 times last night. But just I think it's just disgusting that we have to go this route discussing about I think these issues should be discussed in school, most especially in high school, for our students to actually understand exactly, for people to be uncomfortable. Yeah, there is a lot of things that we feel very uncomfortable with, but that doesn't make us that we shouldn't learn about it. Sometimes when we feel uncomfortable, we learn about it and we proceed and we move forward. Whatever the consequences is, we make the best decision based on past things that we have learned. So again, this bill is just it's just eye-opening that this bill is before us today, and we're discussing about these issues. I think based on time, I'm just gonna leave it as it is. But something that totally gonna vote against.
Spoken like a true high school principal in Providence. Thank you, Representative Baya. And Representative Amore is here. Representative Amore, do you want to say a brief?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. As you know, I'm a 30-year history teacher. And many of the topics that have been discussed today by many other history teachers come up in our classes and are some of the most impactful discussions we have. And, whether we be talking about racial profiling cases and the history of white supremacy, these are the things that we need to discuss in order to understand fully our nation's history. So I'll only add to this. I've been engaged in a number of implicit bias courses and training, and I have not experienced any of the things that were listed in this bill during those courses and trainings. I found them to be enlightening. I found them to force me to think a little differently, and I never felt bad when I left there. And this bill asks some unelected bureaucrat somewhere to determine how an individual feels about something after a contract, and I just think that's totally unenforceable. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Amore. Representative Caldwell, East Greenwich.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief.
Thank you.
As many of you know, I have my PhD, and it is in American Studies, and a huge part of our curriculum in academia and American Studies is about critical race theory and about gender studies and the other issues that this bill brings up. That is the way in which I was educated, and it is a way that helps me do this job very effectively and successfully, I think, at times. And the way I just wanted to pipe in to say the way that those areas of study were portrayed tonight by the people in support of this bill are not an accurate reflection of what those disciplines are or about. They are not an attack on anyone. They are a study of our history, our literature, our politics, and everything in the United States of America. And that education has served me well. I wish I had had it earlier. And and that's it.
Thank you, Representative Dr. Caldwell, Pilgrim High School graduate, just public schools, want to plug them. Next, we have Representative Donovan in Bristol. Representative Donovan is also a career educator, and I'm sure she has some insight into this. Representative Donovan, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, as you said, I was a career educator over 35 years teaching health and physical education. I had thousands of students over those years, and I couldn't be more opposed to this bill. Students need a safe place to talk about sensitive topics, and as a teacher, you establish that safe place. And whether they speak it in the classroom with everyone else present, or they seek you out as an individual, we need that freedom to do that. And this, I just can't imagine having that freedom taken away as an educator. So I couldn't be more opposed to a bill with that sort of language attached to it. And thank you for the opportunity to speak out on this.
Representative Donovan. Representative Fenton Fung.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm going to keep it very, very brief. When I moved to the UK, one of the first books I read was actually The American Revolution from the British standpoint. And as you can imagine, the British Tea Party wasn't exactly the same way we were taught it. Okay? I think on all these issues, more talk, more conversation is better than less. And so for that reason, I would oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fenton Fung. Representative Giraldo, great city of Central Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep. Morgan, I'm not sure if you spoke to any Rhode Islanders from communities like mine when considering this bill, but I'd honestly like to meet with you separately, separate from the heatedness and the craziness of today, to have an honest discussion about what this bill means and why it's so hurtful and disrespectful to people like me. I won't repeat all the great points that the callers made today, but I would like to say that as someone who is biracial to a white mother and immigrant Latino father, I can say wholeheartedly, without a doubt, that racism still exists today. It's real, and it should be discussed. It may not be presented in the way that it was 40 years ago, but it certainly kept its way in American society, and I think we need to talk about it, own it, and work together to change it, not run away from it. This is real for people in my community, and Rep. Morgan, I honestly say this with respect, that it must take a blinding amount of privilege, and that it's really disrespectful for you to stand in front of this education committee full of diversity with glass-shattering young women, Black and Latino members from BIPOC-rich cities like Central Falls, Pawtucket, and Providence, and try to get us to believe and proclaim that we cannot treat things like racism and sexism as facts, and that we have to call it or consider it just an opinion. To me, that's mind-boggling. So again, Rep. Morgan, I honestly extend an invitation for you and I to link up, because I'd like to have an honest conversation about why this is so damaging. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Representative Kislak of the fashionable east side of Providence.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I strongly oppose this bill. I think that for the reasons my colleagues have stated, and I just very quickly want to bring Dr. King back into the conversation, because the sponsor led by, I think, misunderstanding what Dr. King was teaching and what he was all about. And so I just want to read a couple of sentences from his April 1963 letter from Birmingham City Jail, where he talks about oppression, states that oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever, talks about Black Americans together with people of color from other communities working together with a sense of cosmic urgency toward the promised land of racial justice. A few paragraphs later, he talks famously, and this my kid, when I was on my way over here, I told my ninth grader where I was going, and he said, "Oh, are you going to talk about the white moderate?" as Dr. King did. So my kid, because of his Providence public school education, was thinking about this exact quote. And Dr. King said he had hoped that the white moderate would see this, the urgency that Black Americans were moving towards the promised land of racial justice. He said, "Maybe I was too optimistic, maybe I expected too much. I guess I should have realized that few members of a race that has oppressed another race can understand or appreciate the deep groans and passionate yearnings of those that have been oppressed, and still fewer have the vision to see that injustice must be rooted out by strong, persistent, and determined action. And I call on all of us to engage in that deep reflection that Dr. King called on us to do, so that we can together oppose this legislation and move towards a place of racial justice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Norrie had to go to another committee, and judiciary, and Representative Ranglin Vassal, I don't know if you're still on. I lost power. I'm out of power on my iPad. Representative Phillips, if we could just be brief to wrap this up.
Can I be the briefest?
You can.
Everything's been said, so I'm going to pass.
Okay. And Representative Mary Ann Showcroft-Smith, welcome.
My perspective is education and learning is an open book. These topics need to be discussed in a classroom. We need to have these conversations. I'm opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Yep. Do we have someone on? We had two witnesses that we said we're going to call back. Who is it? Okay, let's put them on, please. Raymond, please proceed. You have 1 minute. Please proceed. You have 1 minute.
Greetings. My name is Raymond Kuwalk Watson, representing the Province Cultural Equity Initiative. I just want to voice my opposition to this bill. I'm concerned with individuals trying to decide what is divisive when it comes to our history. I believe all of our history is important, including the parts that makes us feel uncomfortable, because when we're uncomfortable, we choose to make different decisions in the future. I would be highly opposed to anyone who has a background of not being indigenous to these lands, deciding to exclude indigenous history because it makes other people feel uncomfortable. And I think it would also erase a lot of the ethnic histories that have made Rhode Island a great place, including our
20
Italian
seconds, please.
and Irish communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness, please. Who is this? Welcome. You have 1 minute. Please proceed.
The right to a public education, or any education of that matter, is the right to be educated on anything the teacher feels will prepare their student for life and the real world. To teach history, in this country is to acknowledge and accept and to teach all of America's history, even if that means educating our youth on how white supremacy and white racist individuals have benefited from racist white colonizers who have implemented racist systematic operations that still impact and hinders communities of color, black people, and BIPOC communities everywhere. They say history repeats itself, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's anyone whose name is on this bill who would love to see history repeat itself here in Providence, Rhode Island, and Rhode Island as a whole. But these are not the times where history should and will repeat themselves. There is the platform to speak about what's right and what's wrong. The state of Rhode Island had plantation in its name. How many of you voted to remove it? America is fundamentally racist and sexist. And if that makes you uncomfortable to hear what white racists have done, it also makes black people uncomfortable to hear what white racist people have done.
Testimony. Thank you. That concludes the hearing on this legislation. Entertain a motion. So moved. The Committee on Education is adjourned. Thank you very much.